Always nice to have Sean Cruz of TD Ameritrade on the show because he brings a wealth of trades. Thanks for coming on the show, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with General Electric. So earnings are out now, and a lot of people are wondering what could possibly be ahead for the stock. Well, what is the options market predicting here?
So it looks like in the options market, looking at GE that's been beat up quite a bit, there's a lot of concerns around its business. They were actually able to improve their cash flow picture a little bit. I think some investors are liking that. Going into earnings, we saw a lot of activity at that 16 put level. Coming out of it, seeing a lot of activity at the 17 and 17 and a half call level.
So would you put a trade on here? What do you think about this stock?
I think some traders would want to maybe look at this as an interesting entry point, but we're seeing that 16 put still have a lot of open interest there, and then the 17 call. So a popular strategy for equity traders who want to maybe manage their risk a little bit is what's called a caller. And what they're going to do is they're going to go above the money, sell a call at a higher strike, and then they're also going to go below and they're going to buy a put at a lower strike and just kind of hedge off some of the risk on the downside, and they're going to use the call premium to finance the purchase of that put, but it still gives them a little bit of room to run on the upside if the stock keeps moving higher.
We're also ahead of earnings on Apple, and it seems like a lot of traders are already lining up to get in on the trade ahead of this next earnings report. What would be a play that you would put on here?
Right now we're seeing a lot of activity at that 170 put and at the 180 call level, so about $5 in either direction, but a lot of traders like to wait until we get a little closer to that earnings event to maybe put on their earnings trade. One, Apple can move quite a bit between now and then, and we see a general rise in implied volatility as we approach that event, historically speaking. So some traders might wait till we get a little closer to actually put on their earnings plays.
All right, one final stock to take a look at here.
Alibaba, that's an interesting name. We saw at the open yesterday a pretty strong imbalance to buy for 42,000 shares, and it looks like that carried in past the open. Saw a lot of activity at that 195 call level, and also saw some activity at that 200 level, so that's looking like traders might be positioning themselves for a run higher, but also on the downside, seen some activity on the 187.5 put strike, so it looks like they're not just going all in. Some might even be playing a little bit of a pullback, and some might just be hedging some of these gains they may have already received in that name.
Thanks for coming on the show and for that Trader Talk.
Thank you.